Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I believe all of us can relate to at least on some point during the journey. And I'm going to break it down on how we usually respond, how I think responding in this manner can really benefit the OCD community, and so forth. So, that topic is what do we do when somebody says, I have OCD too? This has happened to me 50 times in the last year. It happened to me yesterday. And every time it's happened, my perception has changed. So, this is something that we have to think about. We do not understand certain conditions. I don't understand certain brain tumors, but some people understand them a lot more in depth. So, rightfully so, we have to think about it like this. If none of us, especially anybody watching this video, um, if we ever didn't have OCD, we would not understand OCD in the context needed in order to recover. So, what does the general population think OCD is? The general population thinks OCD is, they say, well, I'm OCD, I'm clean. And which is funny because that's just the obsession, but not a compulsion. So they don't understand that the compulsions are actually the driving factor of the disorder. So it's funny when you break that down. So let's use a little scenario. I like playing a little role play here. So yesterday, I was giving radiology books to a friend of mine that works with me in the restaurant, one of my side jobs. And I said to her, hey, look, just so you know, there might be some interesting things in here. I was in a mental hospital studying for this, so there might be some funny sayings. And she said, well, what were you in the mental hospital for? I said, I had OCD, or have OCD. She says, oh, I have OCD too. And, I said, well, that's nice. I give them the books, I walk away. Because in that point, how am I going to convey this message? So what happens in the beginning? When you're suffering, and rightfully so, you get angry. You want to prove to them that they don't have OCD. You need them to understand that you're suffering, they should respect your suffering, and so on and so forth. So, how I would have handled that situation a while ago, I would have said, you're an idiot. You have no idea what OCD is. You don't understand my suffering. And I would have, woe is me, and so on and so forth. So, as we go back to what I said before, as us not understanding certain things in life, rightfully so, that this person is not going to understand. But this is a teaching moment, but not always. Because you have to analyze the situation. Does this person, if you know them, do you think they're willing to listen? Is it worth trying to educate them? So, breaking down what OCD is and explain to them, like, hey, that's cool that you think that, but that's not actually what OCD is. What is OCD? OCD are obsessions, whether they're obsessions about whatever fear, and then you have a compulsion that you do repeatedly all day, whether it's avoidance or a physical outward compulsion to bring down that anxiety, and it's a genetic disorder. And then people say, well, I didn't know that. I met with someone in my business association about a week and a half ago, and he said the same thing. He goes, I think I'm a little OCD. But it was a one-on-one business meeting, and we were meeting for an hour, and then I spent 20 minutes of that business meeting explaining to him what OCD was. His wife or girlfriend worked in a mental health facility, and he had never even heard any of this. He said, I had no idea OCD was that serious. When I tell people, I don't tell them this in order to make them feel bad, but I say, hey, until recently, the World Health Organization listed OCD as one of the top 10 most debilitating conditions. Now, don't let you get you down right now, because we've come a long way. We're recovering. I'm recovering. Rob's recovered. We know people who have recovered. So that's why they took it off that list. But it was up there when I tell them with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's disease, with ALS, and then people say, whoa, I didn't know it was that serious. I just thought OCD was being clean. And I say, well, I thought the same thing until it affected my life. And then they say, wow, I just didn't know that. So it's rightfully so that they don't understand these things. And that's where you can have an educational moment where you start to explain to them what OCD is all about. Now, There is another part of this conversation that we need to have. Excuse me. And that is the OCD sufferers tend to look for validation in lots of different ways and certainty. It's a false belief that we need other people to understand our journey. We think that understanding our journey is going to somehow make our suffering easier. But that's not true. Because if that were true, that would mean that other people would need to understand us in order for us to recover. And we simply know that it's not factual. It feels nice in the short term. It feels like this, oh, we need them to understand in order for us to have the validity, of our suffering and so forth. But it's an illusion. It's always an illusion when it comes down to these things. So we don't need their validation. It would be nice and we would prefer them to understand, but the reality is they don't need to understand, and more than likely they're not going to understand. And I'm going to do another video on something that we don't think about, and that is we tend to put the people that love us or care about us through a good deal of suffering themselves. And that's another topic I'm going to cover because I think it's very important and can kind of tie into this topic as well, because we tend to tell our loved ones, you don't understand. I know I did this. I was in real bad shape. You don't understand what I'm going through. I would say that if Erica's outside this door right now, if I called her in here, she probably has heard that 5,000 times in a 12-month period. So I was saying it quite often. And if I break that down, why do I need Erica to understand? Is there any evidence to support that I need her to understand in order for me to recover? Or anyone to understand anything you're going through? No. The recovery work comes from yourself. And this is why we talk about the importance of educating someone else about it. So we have teaching moments. And this is the biggest difference between sharing your experiences and what you believe helps, and then forcing your opinion on someone. When you get angry with someone, we can all relate to this. People do not respond well unless they are very, very, very well trained in acceptance of others, which nobody is in most cases. So, people naturally so, you'll say, well, you're an idiot. You don't understand. And I'm not an idiot. I know everything about OCD. And then it goes down this rabbit hole that goes absolutely nowhere. So this is really, really important. So I want to do a summary. So again, we do not need other people to understand our OCD journey. It would be nice, and I would like for them to see, wow, this kid's really suffering. Maybe that's why he's really can't focus right now and so forth. But Erica said something to me really interesting once. She said, it's almost like you want me to have OCD and suffer with you. Think about that. It's almost like you want me to have OCD and suffer with you. Because I would say to her so much, you don't understand, you'll never understand. When the reality is, that was just a compulsion for me to, get my feelings out there. So the reality is, nobody needs to understand OCD, except for yourself, except for your therapist, which is huge. Your coach, your therapist, or whoever you're talking to, whether it's a friend who has OCD, and then, devising a plan for yourself and what's going to work for you over the long term. And that's a big thing. And over the long term, I've realized that getting validation through other people has not helped me not even a 0.01%. It's just an illusion. And you might say, well, no, come on, Nick, it must help. No, it doesn't. It doesn't help at all. You just think it helps. When you break it down through disputing rational beliefs, you realize that none of that actually helps with your own recovery. So, just a quick takeaway from this again. You don't need anyone to understand your journey. Focus on yourself, figure out what works for you, and go on with that. This is what's worked for me. So thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.